Picture this, a grand opera house, 80 Vikings in fur and chainmail, swords drawn, breath steaming under the lights. They're waiting. The conductor's baton hovers, and in the middle of the stage stands one man, our hero, frozen. That man is Chris McHale. No, really, this isn't a metaphor. It's Tuesday in production land. Welcome to Creativity Gigi, and today's episode, The Art of the Call. Because when sweaty Vikings are staring you down, indecision isn't philosophy. It's life-threatening.
Okay, Rita, taking us into this. And yes, that Viking thing actually happened. And when a whole bunch of Viking people are standing around you, waiting for you to make a decision, you take it seriously. I did a bunch of operas back in Boston, and I love doing opera. And I learned something about life and being creative and creativity and the importance of decision-making in the creative process. I mean, it's like a core creative skill. That's the way I see it. But back when I worked as a writer in New York, 3 days were a lifetime to get a piece done. A lot of the time they would call you at like 6 and say they needed something by 10 the next morning, and the right answer was, do you need it earlier? That's kind of like how we hustled back there in New York, and you didn't have time to fuss or freeze. You had to make a call, for better or worse, and move. That's what I'm talking about here on Creativity Gigi, the art and the importance of decision-making in the creative process. In New York, in my writing days, 3 days was a lifetime to finish a piece. And if you missed the deadline, your client would assume that you had joined a cult or taken up pottery. You had to choose. You had to choose in your process. This word and not that word, this idea, not that idea, this angle, not the other angle. You just had to kind of pony up a choice in the process. No time for writer's block, that's for sure. Look, I've always thought writer's block is just another way of saying the writer can't make a decision. I think that's what it is. It's like, I've got writer's block. Well, just decide you don't. The words are there. You just haven't chosen which ones belong. That's the way I think writer's block is. It's like decision block, maybe with better PR. The words are there. You just can't decide which ones get to live and which ones get to delete. I'll be honest with you. I'm not that great at decisions. In my real life, IRL, I'm not that great at it. My default mode is procrastination, so I simplify. That's what I've learned in my life. If my taxes are due, I'm going to pay them at 11:45, before midnight. If I go into a restaurant, I just have learned to pick the first thing I see on the menu, because if I start going through the menu in detail, I may never pick, and I'll probably pick the wrong thing, and the chef will be closing up the kitchen, and I'm trying to decide what to eat. So I simplify my choices. That's the first thing I've done to kind of, work through my bad decision making in life. Anybody who knows me will tell you, like, Chris is not that great at decisions, but you have to kind of grow up and be an adult, so you got to figure out how to make it work. I went on this shoot to Europe, and I packed in my suitcase 4 white shirts and 4 black jeans and 4 white socks, and that was it. every day I looked the same, every day I dressed the same, and every day the art director on the shoot had words with me about it. It seemed to get under her skin. Well, I don't know if it really got under her skin, but that's the way I was handling it. I've learned to simplify my choices. One less decision in the morning between me and getting to work. All right? Back to the stage and the Vikings. I'm better in production. There's no doubt about it. Deadlines taught me decisiveness. When 80 people and a bunch of Vikings are standing around you on an opera company stage waiting for your cue to go, for your decision what to go, indecision's really not an option. I mean, it's not something that you can say like, well, maybe I'll do it, maybe I don't. And that's when you're got 4,000 people coming to the opera, you don't have time. That's a luxury. You've got to make the call. Decision-making and creativity is a balance of choice and momentum. Right? That's the way I see it. It's like you're on a seesaw and choice is on one end and momentum's on the other, and the decision-making is in the middle. Creating the balance between those two poles, you've got to make a choice, and by making a choice, you keep a momentum, and that's why I believe decision-making is important in creativity. You slow up in creativity, you could lose the whole project. What should a character do? What's their name? How do they feel? Where do they live? I mean, the options are endless, but endless options are also an infinite ways to delay. I'm not feeling good. I'm not going to write today. I'm going to take a long walk. Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with a long walk, but are you taking that walk because you don't want to make a decision? Or it's just become too hard? Why am I talking about this? Why am I going on about this on creativity? Gigi, it's because I've just been in a month-long decision-making period with Song in Space. Fundraising, production plans, collaborations, new actors, new musicians. Where am I going to do it? Am I going to do a Kickstarter? Am I going to do Indiegogo? I mean, I was driving myself crazy, which is something I'm really, really good at. But I felt a push to decide a whole bunch of things fast that I wasn't ready to decide. And I started feeling overwhelmed. And I believe overwhelm is an indication that your creative process is wackadoodle. Something is wrong. I mean, you really need to keep away from overwhelm. You're not going to paint a great canvas or write a great song if you're sitting down and you're like, I've got to do this. I mean, look, any artist will tell you that's what it is. I used to be a jingle writer, and jingle writers were like, here it is. We need a song for Budweiser, or we need a song for Kit Kat, or we need this, or we need that, and we need it by the end of the week, and it's got to be great. I mean, a tremendous amount of pressure, but that's not art. That's commercial work, and nobody expects it to be world-changing. It happens. I did some great work where we put out music that shifted the world a little bit, and I was always kind of aware of that my jingles were going to be broadcast to millions of people. I was kind of aware of that, and I kind of felt a responsibility for that. But that is not art. That is not art. And these days, and on this show, Creativity Gigi, I'm really talking about art. I'm talking about the artistic process. And I'm talking about how decision-making is so important in the artistic process. So with Song in Space, I was feeling overwhelmed. That's wrong. I was feeling pressure. That's wrong. I was feeling like I had to make all these decisions, and I was losing control of the project. I wasn't even sure what I was doing, to be honest with you. The flow was gone. It was just, something was off, And my instincts were like, hey, Chris, slow up. Come on, give yourself a break. You're never going to find the groove if you keep this pressure on yourself. I decided, I went and sat by the lake for a while, and I decided, you know what? Screw it. And I went and I rented a car. That was my decision, to rent a car. And we got in the car and we drove down through Ohio, where we stopped and visited a great friend of mine. And then we went into the Appalachian Mountains, into West Virginia. If you don't know West Virginia, it's highly recommended. It's absolutely drop-dead gorgeous. The Appalachian Mountain State with tall peaks and deep valleys and raging rivers and lakes and caves. We visited this cave. At least my wife visited the cave. But I couldn't get down there because I have trouble with stairs. But she went down, said it was amazing. We drove over the Cumberland Gap, which I wanted to do because I'm a history buff. And that was sort of like one of the main entrances to the West in the old days, and the site of the first national road. I mean, there's a lot of history along there. And we went to a family wedding in Maryland, and then we turned around and came back. And by the time I got back, I went into my studio, and I had a clear head, and I sat down and I wrote a great new pitch for Song in Space. And my producer who I'm working with in LA said, "How did you do that when you were driving?" And it's like, because I was driving, because I went into the mountains, because I pushed back on the overwhelm and gave myself room to think and room to breathe, I came up with a pretty good new plan for Song in Space, and it's a plan that's reasonable, and it's a plan that lays out some realities, and it's just gonna work better. All right? So everything shifted. Everything shifted because I made a decision to pause. I made a decision is the important part of that. The secret that people don't tell you a lot is that the universe doesn't respond to indecision. It responds to motion. It responds to motion. Go out into the middle of the desert and say, like, "I don't know what I should do." And the stars will look at you like you're nuts. Go out into the middle of the desert and say, like, "I'm ready. I'm open. I know what to do." And the universe will respond. So I'm going to sum this whole thing up and show you how I handle it, because I broke it into 3 steps. All right. Step 1, recognize the decision point. That point when you're reaching the creative process where it's like you have to make a choice. It's also, if you're looking for the indication, like you're at a decision point, it's like you realize you're not refining anymore. You're delaying. You're hiding. You're looping. You open the fridge 6 times and still haven't started cooking. I mean, that's the sign that you're at a decision point. So recognize the decision point. That's step 1. Step 2, define the choices. All right. That really helps me a lot. Write them down. Because when you make a list, it'll be like the obvious one will often come to the fore. And I'll give you a little pro tip here that I found from my career is that when I make my list of choices, I'll be like, okay, that's a cool one. Oh, that's okay. That's one. And then I'm like, there's this one. I can't do that. That's craziness right there. I can't do that choice. I can't make that choice. But, when I make the crazy choice, that's when things work better. I mean, that's the one that people like. That's the one that you look back on years later and go like, wow, that's cool. I like that. I like that choice. And then step 3 in the process is make the call. It's obvious. Listen, perfection is the biggest con of all time in the creativity world. There's no such thing. And your job as an artist is to get it out there, and perfection's not going to help you do that. So forget that. Just make the call and make the best call you can. I did some work with Miles Davis once when I was doing lighting design, and And Miles was a particular kind of cat. He lived his life a certain way. And he once said, if you play an E flat, make it the right E flat. In other words, if you play the wrong note, make it the right note. Right? Whatever way it comes out. That's kind of like surrendering to the creative spirit, right? Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Oh, you know what? I'm going to make that work. That's what he was saying. That's what he was saying. Perfection is a big con. Don't even try. Just decide. Just decide. Because movement beats paralysis every single time. All right? So, recognize the decision point. Define the choices. Make the call. All right? The universe doesn't reward indecision. It rewards motion. And it's never, ever an option not to choose. This has been Creativity Gigi. My name is Chris McHale, and I hope that this helps you a little bit. Now I'll get back to work.
Well done, Maestro. 80 Vikings survived, no lawsuits filed, and you even got dinner. So, dear audionauts, you've heard the sermon. Now make a choice. Subscribe to Creativity GGG, leave a review, or I'll send those same Vikings to rehearse outside your window. This has been Creativity GGG. Make the call. GGG.